Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. You can check out new episodes of the show every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. If you missed an episode or want to get more information about the show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com. I'm excited to be attending and recording shows at Rainmaker 2016. You can join keynote speaker Gary Vaynerchuk along with modern revenue leaders at the only conference dedicated to the sales development industry, March 7th to 9th in Atlanta. Get tickets now to receive cutting-edge sales content from thought leaders, learn best practices during breakout sessions, and come network with the world's top sales influencers. If you use the promo code BTFS and the number 30, you'll get 30% off. More information is on the show website at buildingthefutureshow.com. I'm also going to be at the Business Rocks Tech, Music, and Investment Summit recording shows live in Manchester, England, April 21st and 22nd, where Steve Wozniak is headlining. More information about the summit is on the show website at buildingthefutureshow.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Navid Rastegar, founder and CEO at FitBliss. Navid, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin, for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on the show. I think what you're doing is really important and really cool, and you're involved in a couple other things that are, very interesting and I think worth covering as well. But maybe kind of before we get into kind of what you're doing, let's cover your background and kind of where you grew up.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks again for having me, Kevin. So my name is Navid Rastegar. I grew up in the heart and soul of Silicon Valley.
That's rare. Most people are imported into California.
I know. Yeah, I was actually born here.
Awesome.
I listened to some of your shows in the past, so I was able to hear people from India, people from Iran, people from all over the world. So it's exciting to say that I'm actually a born citizen here. And
that's awesome.
A little city called Saratoga, just west of San Jose, California.
Okay.
About 5 miles from Apple's headquarters in Cupertino and about 10 miles from Google's headquarters in Mountain View.
Right. No, that's awesome. So you've been around it basically your whole life. And I love the Google campus. It's so much fun.
Beautiful. They did such a great job there. And they're continuing to grow it. And what's great is I think they're creating an influence in the enterprise space. So what I mean by enterprise is large businesses thinking more small business in a way, with the culture and the engagement and the work-life experience. I think they're doing a great job.
No, totally. It's interesting because I went with a coworker probably last May, and he'd never been, and we pull up and there's a bunch of guys basically with a bunch of foam swords and shields and stuff, and they're basically charging at each other, and it was exactly how you pictured Google to be was exactly what was happening when we pulled up.
It's incredible. I mean, people don't make these stories up. It's real.
Exactly. No, that's cool. So I'm curious then, how did you kind of decide, or what got you passionate as a kid to get into tech?
Yeah. I mean, obviously there's the geographic influences.
Sure.
But in this case, I think it really started with, so my father was an engineer by trade.
Oh, okay.
He worked in the high-tech industry. So his former employers were companies like Omega.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the zip drive.
Yeah, of course.
The zip drive was the cool thing at the time. When
totally.
We had 3.5-inch floppies that were 2 megabytes, and you had a zip drive that was, I don't know, maybe 100 megabytes.
Yeah.
And then he worked at Seagate and IBM.
Oh,
and
wow.
I have an older sister. My older sister ended up getting her first job at a company called Atmel.
Okay.
So that was a big influence, I think, on me as a child growing up and seeing, your father wake up and, he gets in his car and he goes to this company and talks about it on the way and talks on the way home. We're listening to some radio shows that talk about the Wall Street market and how tech is influencing it. So it was a big influence on me and how we really utilize technology to build solutions.
Sure. That's awesome. And I think the one thing that always stands out to me when I come to San Francisco is there's billboards that would, normally have just I don't know, big brands. You'll see a Firefox browser one or like some other big tech company. It's just so funny to me, and it's awesome. But like, it's the only place I know in like the entire world where like Firefox has a billboard or whatever, right?
Billboards are tech companies. Yeah, yeah. You don't see that. You don't see that.
No,
I swear. We have a lot of them on 101 that you'll see billboards now. It's like up and coming companies, as well as like Apple has a picture that says shot on iPhone 6s, right?
Sure.
I mean, these are massive tech companies that are putting money into billboards off the 101.
Yeah, I just think it's funny. But I'm curious then, what did you take kind of after high school? Did you go to university or where did you kind of end up?
Yes. So I went to a private high school. It was a Catholic high school down in San Jose, and then I graduated and went to, you can pretty much call it the parent version of that high school. It's Santa Clara University. It's a Jesuit college, little one. The claim to fame is, I would say, Steve Nash, which is a Canadian basketball player. Funny enough, I think he's Canadian.
Yeah, I think so.
So he's a Canadian. He went there. And Santa Clara was actually ranked top 5 for highest salary for business majors out of college. So
wow.
That, again, sort of influenced me going down the path of studying marketing and finance versus getting into, computer science. My sister did actually major in computer science at Santa Clara, but I wanted to take something that I was more interested in, which was marketing and finance. Specifically at that time, I was a Wall Street junkie. I loved just watching CNBC.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. So it was really more my passion, I think, in college. But I think when I graduated was 2008, and probably one of the hardest years to graduate college, especially in the U.S. economy in 2008. That was when the massive crash occurred. So jobs were limited. Wall Street, nobody would get near a stock. In 2008 when the Dow Jones was at about 6,000. So I decided to move into the marketing role at a high-tech company.
Okay.
So I ended up, if you like, I can talk a little bit about my job experience, or where would you like to take this?
Sure. Yeah, I'm curious to know kind of your job experience as well. You don't have to name specific companies if you're not comfortable doing that, but we can.
No, I don't mind.
Curious. Yeah.
No.
I like getting to know kind of people's backgrounds.
Yeah. I think maybe I'll start back in high school. So I was originally a web developer. So I started web design when I was 15. I went to a little junior college to take classes on Dreamweaver and HTML.
Okay. No, totally. I did the same thing, so I get it.
Yeah. So I grew a passion for design and the web. So that was kind of my marketing influence. So I started doing some web design at Intel. It was my first job at age 15.
Wow, that's awesome.
I was literally getting dropped off there in the summers. Yeah, doing web development for them. And then, so I really got to see, kind of how teams work in a big corporate experience. But then I slowly, obviously when the internship's over, you have to find something that you like and you're passionate about. And at the time, I loved cars, back in the day when there was, cars didn't come with the nicest sound systems and the best navigation systems. You'd actually have to go customize these things.
Sure.
So I started my first company at age 16.
Really?
It was a car entertainment company. Yep.
Huh.
So we worked with wholesalers in LA.
Okay.
And the wholesalers in LA we would essentially call them, and we'd have, essentially all the equipment and products shipped to my parents' garage.
That is awesome.
I started, yeah. So if you open up my parents' garage, you'll see all this, Alpine and Rockford Fosgate and all these cool brands that people were buying, at high school. So I had all my friends start to, I essentially gave them a cut. So I started building like a distribution model. And this is what we call it when we're older. When we're 16, we're like, hey, do you want to make a few extra bucks if you can, bring in some leads and referrals? I'll pay you 2% of whatever the person buys.
That's awesome.
Or whatever it may be. And next thing you know, you have kind of your own little team that everybody's making money and they're doing something that they like to do. And which is kind of my first taste of entrepreneurship at that age. So that was really exciting. But I still love tech, right? I mean, I think when you're in Silicon Valley, you're highly influenced.
Sure.
There's this concept of FOMO here.
Yep.
which is fear of missing out.
Okay.
And a lot of people are driven by that concept, especially in this area. And I can't speak on behalf of others, but definitely here in Silicon Valley and San Francisco Bay Area, we're highly driven through technology and what people are doing with technology. So we're influenced to be in technology.
Sure.
So I started working for a startup called ZL Technologies, where I wore multiple hats. I was doing everything from sales to marketing to product design to working with the engineering team on how we can work on roadmap based on what the clients are needing. And this is when I was at 18 years old, 17,
wow.
18. And then I decided to move into corporate. And the reason being is my father was a big influence on me when it came to technology. My mom was much more of an influence when it came to business acumen.
Okay.
But with my dad, he said the foundation is very important. And what he meant by that was go work for a big company for your first few years out of college, because that's when you start to learn from subject matter experts, people who've been in there for a while.
Sure.
You gain a really great network and you learn a lot.
Yeah, that's really good advice.
Yeah, it was. So then I ended up moving and working at Cisco Systems, which is obviously a really large hardware, now more into software technology company, more into, I think, more than anything, they're like switching and routing.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're doing more. I worked there for 3 years. I did enterprise marketing for security solutions. I'm not sure if you ever had to try to market security products. It's probably the hardest thing to do, because you're pretty much telling people, hey, you're about to get, hacked.
Sure.
Buy our products. And it's a very, you have to be very careful. It's like trying to sell somebody, bay alarm, house systems. Like, so wait, do I live in a bad area? Am I going to get robbed? You're doing something very challenging in that position.
Sure.
You really got to think about that. It's really kind of a creative position to be in.
Totally. That's awesome.
So then I moved into sales because I think my personality really has led me to where I am today. So I was just following my personal journey. I believe everybody has their own journeys and everybody follows it. And whether it's forced or not forced, you will follow that path.
Interesting.
So for me, it was getting into sales and really getting a good understanding of client engagement, almost human psychology.
Sure.
So I started selling, which was really interesting. During, I think it was 2011, I was selling networking solutions from Cisco to the public sector.
Okay.
And the public sector is things like public education, government, cities, counties. And in 2011 was not also the time to be in the public sector space because of the budgetary constraints that cities and counties and public education had. So it was also very challenging. But again, you learn so much from these challenges. And part of that was I realized that a lot of people who are constrained on paying big amounts of money for huge boxes, essentially hardware, were learning to just say, hey, I have a 95 Windows system, but I have Internet Explorer. Can I still manage my accounting and my sales and whatever it was through just the internet? And then you think to yourself, wow, cloud is really the way to leverage, legacy hardware and still take advantage of new technology. Sure. So I transitioned into a cloud position and I worked for the industry leader, Salesforce.com, which I learned. I had the pleasure of not just working with intelligent and creative colleagues, but I was also able to consult and partner with up-and-coming cloud startups.
Okay, interesting.
So a lot of them were SaaS-based, and they were disrupting industries that you would never even imagine. So think like manufacturing. And I think that was a perfect example of seeing when you go to manufacturing plants, you see literally still old computer systems, desktops with large screens. And people don't realize that, but it used to go back really far with the screens and like an old TV. But yet they still have the software that's running new systems and still have internet connection with high-powered internet. So now all they needed was technology to enable them to make operational efficiencies more effective. So whether that's like just-in-time inventory, how do you know how many Toyotas are being sold or how many Bosch, spark plugs are being sold over the next 3 to 5 years, and being able to change those numbers quickly. So that was essentially my background and my work experience, which helped me carve out my next adventure, which is my startup today, FitBliss.
Okay, so what exactly is FitBliss, and kind of why did you start it?
Yeah, I always think it's great to begin with why,
Sure.
and then we can get into what it really is. I love Simon Sinek. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he has
No.
this.
Who is he, just for people that don't know?
Yeah, Simon Sinek is he's a speaker in regards to motivation, and understanding the human psychology of purchasing, of being better, how decisions are made. So Simon Sinek he's a great speaker and a writer as well, but he has a YouTube TED Talk I strongly recommend people take a look into, and it talks about how leaders lead, and he talks about Steve Jobs and how the iPhone. When you hear them talk about the iPhone, they said originally it'll change the way you connect with people, and it doesn't even. It was very inspirational versus what does it really do, right? So it talks about the why, then it talks about the how, and then it talks about the what.
Okay,
so I strongly recommend taking a look into that one. But so why I started FitBliss? I started FitBliss because I personally wanted to improve the well-being of my colleagues, seeing how they were, seeing even my family members and friends. I think the best way to say it stemmed from years of being in the corporate world, to seeing friends and family dealing with the ongoing health challenges caused from years of work stress and fairly unhealthy habits. So that was the reason why I started the company.
Okay.
Because I really wanted to improve the outcomes. I think for me, I'm a millennial, and you see your parents who have been in the workplace or the workforce for years, and seeing how they are today, you obviously want to make changes to improve any sort of outcomes in the future for yourselves and your children, based upon what you've seen your parents and obviously your colleagues and your friends and family go through.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I guess I could say what we do. So for mostly mid-sized companies, we improve the well-being and engagement of the workforce. And the way we do that is it's an engagement platform, a health engagement platform that connects employees online and digitally, whether it's through your browser or through your mobile phone, and it socially connects people to build that healthier workplace community. And the reason we chose to go down that path was because sometimes technology isn't necessarily about changing things. It's just about maybe making it better. So what I mean by that is a lot of people today spend about 3.3 hours on their mobile phones. Sure. You see a lot of people spend times on, I think there's over 2 billion people on social media. So how do you take advantage of what human psychology has already engineered their brains to do at such a young age and showcase that in a healthy behavior format, right? So for us, we were thinking the employee fitness network is like the thoughts that stood out to me. How do we connect to people on their things that they're interested in and connecting them to sustain behavior change over time?
Sure. No, that's actually really interesting. So I'm kind of curious then, how does it kind of work for kind of a company? Like, do I sign up and then do I have to add all the employees, or how does it kind of work?
Yeah, great question. So with FitBliss, we work through the company. So usually the companies put together these wellness programs, and frankly, we working at Salesforce and previous companies, they put together some wellness programs, and you usually see about 5 to 10% engagement. Sure. And the reason being is because it's a model that just doesn't work. So with FitBliss, our approach has been, why don't we put it on a TED kind of thing, flip it over and see how it'll work. So we really gauge the interest of the employees first.
Okay.
So we talk to employees. We see, are you interested in connecting with other people that share the same interest that you do, to say maybe go play basketball on Saturday mornings, or go play ping pong during lunch break, or go on an afternoon walk to grab a cup of coffee. Like, are you looking to engage with your colleagues? And a majority of them say yes. And then I said, well, then what's wrong with the system today? And what's wrong with the system was that employees are put in somewhat of a box, meaning you could only do specific things that the wellness program essentially enables.
Right.
Meaning you can only walk, hike, run, and bike. And frankly, people today are doing things like CrossFit, bar, Orange Theory Fitness. I mean, I can name off some more of these really trending things that are going on in the fitness space.
Sure.
That these wellness programs just couldn't enable. And there's an infographic I saw the other day, and it was really interesting. It talked about how millennials are a little more self-enthused. They're a little more egotistical. They want things personalized to their lifestyle. So a lot of the reason why there's a big lack of engagement with the highest growing population being millennials in the workplace is because it wasn't as personalized. It wasn't so allowing employees to do what they already do and share it with their colleagues. So our approach was we wanted to make sure we built a solution the employees liked. Then we went to the employer and we said, hey, this is our solution. And the employer said, great, are our employees interested in these things? And we said, yes, there are already a few employees interested. So the way that we go to market is we make it much more participatory or voluntary. So the employees would tell their HR teams and say, hey, listen, we want to actually participate. And it goes back to what we originally talked about, which is FOMO.
Okay.
I talked to a lot of our clients about this and say, listen, don't force anything along. Don't force this to your employees. Just ask them. Maybe have your executives take interest, have them embark first, and your employees will follow because they obviously want to make sure that, if their executives are involved, that means there's a core value that addresses.
Interesting.
Right,
Yeah.
with the company. And then once more employees sign up, obviously then we work with the employer to make sure they're all set up correctly. They can integrate any fitness device, so like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or a Garmin, Strava, things like that.
Right.
Applications that you use, we can all integrate that into our platform as well.
Okay. So, and then how do you guys kind of monetize this?
So we work with the employers on that. So it depends on the volume.
Okay.
So if it's obviously a larger company, it's going to be a little bit reasonably cheaper per employee per month. Sure. So we want to make it very simple. And the nice part is if an employee wants to be, so we want another employee to jump on, that employee can actually just replace, say, an employee who's either left the company or no longer wants to participate.
Okay.
So we make it very flexible. Yeah, make it really flexible.
Okay. No, that's really cool. And I think it seems like more and more kind of big and even like small, well, it seems like just businesses in general seem to be wanting to get their employees a little bit more active and whatnot. And I know there's a bunch of studies that kind of come out that, sitting's kind of the new smoking. And I think a lot of people are like, that's kind of maybe harsh to put it that way, because I get some people are wandering around and doing things and, some people have standing desks and people are taking kind of precautions for that. But there's a lot of people that I think just doing little things to make them a little bit healthier and kind of gradually track that. Is basically why you founded the company.
Absolutely. I mean, we always tell people attainable goals that are short term helps build long term change.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is don't put you have to lose X amount of pounds, which are sometimes very challenging and can create almost unhealthy immediate habits. Mm-hmm. Why don't you set up maybe an attainable goal? Let's just say 10 minutes of walking a day, and soon see your progression go from 10 to 15, 15 to 18, 18 to 20. Sure. And what's even more beautiful about that experience is that you actually start to see people see you do it.
Interesting.
And see that you're sustaining that over time, so they know it's not just like a fad or a trend.
Right.
Right? It's more like this is somebody who really truly believes in themselves, believes that they can attain this goal that they set in front of them, and people are attracted to that. Right? It's sure. Something like, it brings inspiration and motivation to the people that you surround yourself with every day.
No, totally. It makes a lot of sense. Like I actually worked with a girl who, her goal, I can't remember. It was like lose like 50 pounds or something over a year. I can't remember the exact goal, but it was a significant goal. And just watching her, like she used to go to the gym every day and, like she'd watch her diet and like everything. And it was really inspiring to see her just like, and she looks awesome now. And she like, kept it off and
did it in a healthy way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think part of it too is just if you see other coworkers kind of, achieving what they set out to do, whether it's, okay, now they're walking 10 minutes a day or 20 minutes a day or whatever it is, you start saying like, maybe I'll just tag along with them, and then you'll automatically get better. I think that's awesome. So
yeah, again, it gets that FOMO effect, right? When
totally.
you see something, you're like, man, I want to do that. I want to join her. She seems like she's doing something really cool and she's sustaining it. And it's not like somebody's telling her to do it. It's that intrinsic motivator. And with that, it actually draws more genuine interest from people around you to participate with you, right? And that's that compelling, sustainable driver over time.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. So maybe let's cover kind of what Startup Health is and kind of why you guys were selected.
Yeah. So I think it's a good question. I come from a business background and a tech background with some development experience. Now, the areas that I didn't have knowledge in was healthcare. So when I was going about reviewing which accelerators were out there for the team and what really fits our mold, it was really focused on how do we help educate ourselves better in the healthcare industry.
Sure.
Right? And healthcare is such a massive, complex space.
Sure.
That sometimes it can be somewhat cumbersome to get through all of the different details. So we were looking for an accelerator that provided us with the knowledge, the network, the education and mentoring and the coaching. So we selected down to a few, and the one that really fit, I think, our mold the best and what we were really looking for was Startup Health.
Okay.
So with Startup Health, it offered us areas where we need help in, right? One was the healthcare network.
Sure.
So what's great is they have some sessions, and obviously you can see all these things online, but they have sessions with industry experts. They have also a network that you can collaborate with other entrepreneurs.
Oh, interesting.
So kind of going through the similar challenges that you are, which I love because this is kind of our model as well with FitBliss. And the reason I say that is because FitBliss is kind of when you join the network, you get to see all of what your colleagues are doing.
Right.
So people who are kind of living the same lifestyle that you are, and you get to learn from them, right? Everybody comes with such unique backgrounds and such unique experiences, and for you to be able to have access to that is really compelling. So with Startup Health, they allowed us to have access to, a company that's doing like teledermatology, and I became good friends with their CEO, and another person that's doing things around like the pharmaceutical space or how to improve patient to doctor engagement.
Okay.
Things like that where you get really creative healthcare solutions.
Sure.
And for us, our solution is very hybrid though. And what I mean by that, when I say hybrid, I'm saying it's not 100% focused on healthcare. It's about 50%, and the other 50 is focused on actually enterprise, like corporate businesses.
Yeah.
Right. So for us, I wanted to become more educated and help our team grow within the healthcare industry. So for us, that made the most sense. And I think the reason we were selected, I think it was threefold. Is really our unique vision, our strategy, and our execution approaches towards solving workforce health engagement. And again, that's why I said it's kind of 50-50.
Right.
We're not just about the healthcare industry. We're also about the workplace HR industry, right? The engagement and productivity industry. So it's I think they selected us for those reasons.
Interesting. So do they provide kind of like office space and whatnot, or what kind of do you get by being part of it?
Oh, okay, good question. So for us, so Startup Health is very unique in their approach, and the way they've approached it is it's a 3-year program.
Okay.
So they're there for the long-term partnerships. So accelerators today are traditionally 3 to 5 months.
Sure.
They usually give you some sort of capital, and obviously Startup Health, they have their own. I can't disclose all of the information as you can imagine.
Sure.
But,
yeah. Fair
they
enough.
have their own set of terms with their entrepreneurs, but they're there for the long term.
Sure. 3 years is a long time,
for
right?
Us, yeah. 3 years is a long time, and I think in the healthcare space to really make change.
Yeah.
For the long term, and have that support team, and have the access to the VCs and the angels and the different partners and providers who can essentially take your solution and help you bring to market. So think like UHC or Anthem or Aetna or Blue Shield. A lot of these companies look at startup health as the way to incubate great startups.
Interesting.
As well as help accelerate them.
That's very cool.
Now, in regards to office space, yeah, it's a really unique approach. And I think it also is, it allows the entrepreneur to be, and so we're not there locally. So Startup Health is actually based in New York.
Okay.
But we're based in San Francisco. So they actually use Slack.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Slack is a great communication tool.
Sure.
That we're using to essentially have access and see what the latest and greatest is coming from the accelerator program. But they also have events that happen about, I think, 2 or 3 times a year. So just recently, they're here at JP Morgan's healthcare conference, which is one of the largest conferences in healthcare in the States annually.
Sure.
And they reserved an entire area for all of their accelerator members.
Oh, awesome.
With access to specific investors and providers, which created this kind of nice unifying experience for those individuals and entrepreneurs who aren't with Startup Health locally, but to be able to do that in person with the right people to help accelerate your business.
Sure. No, that's awesome. Very cool. So I'm kind of curious to know what exactly is the Founders Network and how are you a part of that?
Yeah, Founders Network is probably one of my favorite things I came across. So when I left Salesforce, I had a couple friends of mine. One that's actually in Founders Network before I had joined. And Founders Network is essentially a space for all tech entrepreneurs to join, but you have to go through a selective process, and usually it's through another fellow Founders Network member.
Okay.
So you vouch for another tech founder to come in. They go through a screening process, and then they can join once they pass the screening, and you get access to so many cool things. So essentially everything a tech founder goes through. Right, so like think team building, think funding, think hiring, marketing, sales. Are you here locally? There's a chapter here in San Francisco. There's a chapter in New York. There's a chapter in LA. I mean, it's this incredible community of tech founders across all verticals.
Okay.
All industries. Are you consumer? Are you B2B? Are you mobile? Are you strictly browser? It depends on obviously your space.
Sure.
And you also get access to investors, VCs, potential clients. They provide you with this incredible network that you can ping ideas off of and get really great candid feedback as well. Like let's just say you want to go choose a certain vendor for something you want to use internally for your company. And you ask the network, you say, hey guys, I'm this size company. I'm looking to, utilize, for instance, a payroll system.
Okay.
What do you recommend for a payroll system? And then you get this incredible feedback for companies who are in my scenario, which is like, 3 to 5 employees.
Sure.
And we're looking to grow this startup to, maybe more of like a 25 to 50 employee size. But how do we use the right payroll system to get us there? Right?
Yep. That's
kind of tax efficient, does all the documentation for us, the onboarding, whatever it may be. And you really get creative ideas and the nice feedback to help obviously optimize your business.
Sure. That's awesome. So do you have to be in one of the cities where they have kind of a chapter, or can kind of anybody in the States or even North America or outside North America join?
Yeah, anywhere. So if you're looking to create one, definitely contact me. I'll obviously vouch for you and have you talk to the screening obviously the screeners, and help you get started in your specific geography.
Sure. That's awesome. So what kind of stuff do you guys screen for? Like what kind of questions and whatnot?
Good question. I'm not a screener,
okay.
Unfortunately. Actually, maybe fortunately. But I think it comes down to, are you tech focused? What's your vision? Where do you see yourselves in 2 to 3 months? Are you in angel round? Or are you in seed round? Or are you already venture backed? they ask you some certain questions to see kind of what the scoping process would look like for you and how you would help contribute to the community.
Sure.
And the network. So like they always ask for like, what are some unique experiences you would love to share, right? What makes you unique? And it really helps to bring different perspectives to the community, right? And that's where it kind of goes back to our model of, there's so many different experiences that people go through, and be able to actually leverage that from anywhere at any time is pretty compelling.
Sure. No, that's awesome. I think that's great. And I think it's nice to have those kind of support networks, especially when, they're nationwide and beyond, just because there's so many people and, that just kind of have been through it and kind of sorted out the same problems that you're dealing with right now. And like you mentioned, like just saying, I need a payroll system that I can have like for where I'm at now and where I'm at in like a year or two, right? And somebody's like, use this, and you're
That's
like,
right.
Thank you so much for saving me, tons of time, right?
So much time.
Yeah, that's
I gotta
awesome.
tell you, Kevin, to hit on that, one of the most, actually probably the most valuable asset besides your teammates is time as an entrepreneur.
Totally.
So, and decision-making time process, right? And for us, that is, to have access to people who've already gone through that headache maybe.
Yep.
And just say, if I can help somebody else not go through the same headache that I've been through, maybe I've done something good for someone and help them go through something I wish I didn't have to go through. Right. And I do the same thing now. So I did a session for Founders Network for joining the Salesforce community, right? So FitBliss is built on Salesforce. So I did I said, hey, one of the unique things I can bring to the Founders Network community is my background at Salesforce, right?
Sure.
How to help you build a great product, but more importantly, go to market, right? Help get your product in front of the right people.
Sure.
How you can help provide your solution to the client needs in the Salesforce community. So they were so kind. They said, hey, we'll put a 1-hour webinar up for you. We'll invite everybody to the meeting, and then you go ahead and showcase, obviously what you can provide. And it was great, and people were like, now you have new friends that you never had before. Now they help you with questions that you have. It becomes this, great support team, right?
Sure.
For all things you need, which is why I'm such a huge fan of Founders Network.
No, that's awesome. And you basically have like an instant network across America, right?
Yeah, across more even. I think
Sure.
think they have. I think they're in Canada as well.
Okay. No, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So I know you do some mentoring as well, and it's probably kind of related to the Founders Network. So I'm kind of curious to know kind of who do you mentor and what types of people do you kind of like to mentor?
It's a great question. So I think the mentoring started for me when I was at Salesforce. So the position that I had when I was there was very consultative. We were on the business development team for partnerships. So what we were focused on was bringing in really compelling, innovative technologies and introducing it to the Salesforce community of customers and partners and supporters, people who are looking at ways to build more operational efficiency based upon the technology on Salesforce's platform. So that job was very much consultative. It wasn't like, hey, I'm going to help you, or I'm going to go sell your product for you. It's more like, let me understand what problems you're solving. Why would somebody need your technology or your solution or your vision? And how do we help connect kind of your pipe to somebody else's pipe, right? And if we can connect those two pipes together, we have this free-flowing kind of data going back and forth that creates the efficiency and the needs that the clients are looking for.
Sure.
And the mentorship part really helped me when I was at Salesforce embark in kind of my role today. So when I'm still in connection with a lot of people who are building technologies and entrepreneurs building technologies on Salesforce.
Sure.
And helping them obviously think creatively on how to get into that space. So it's an ongoing mentorship program that I work with different entrepreneurs and wanting obviously to make changes. But I think why it's important, I think it's also really important to have a mentor because it'll calm your nerves when you're anxious.
Sure.
It'll answer your questions when you don't know how to answer them. It'll motivate you, and I have like a list of these things in my head.
Sure.
It'll motivate you when you're feeling like the world is coming to an end.
Sure.
And finally, probably the most important thing a mentor can do for anyone is guide them to being the best they can be.
Sure.
Right? It's really helping them self-reflect, become aware of themselves, and think positively based upon that. Right? I think that's what a true mentor can do for you.
Sure. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And the more and more people that I interview for the show, a lot of them say like having a mentor was like almost like it was a huge percentage of why they're successful, right? Because you're right, like just kind of that list that you just mentioned, like there's days where you have no idea what you're doing or where to go or what to do, or like some days you're like I should just give this all up and quit and whatever, right? But you need somebody to bounce that kind of has been where you are, understands where you're trying to go, kind of pick you back or help pick you back up, and say, no,
That's
let's
right.
brush yourself off and let's go at this angle, right? I think that's super important. But I'm curious though, how to go about maybe asking somebody to mentor you or any kind of, ways to go about kind of finding a mentor.
I would say that the number one trait of a mentor is trust.
Okay.
So if you were to categorize, how do you filter between people who can possibly be your mentor? I would say just definitely look at, do you trust that person to take care of your children? Would you trust that person to take care of your children?
Interesting.
Kind of thing. And
that much
teach
trust.
them
Interesting.
how to be an adult, right? And
sure.
Because right now your baby is your company.
Sure.
Right. So for me, my baby is FitBliss, right? So right
Sure.
now, everything that I'm focused on is helping this company be successful and helping, obviously, fulfill the vision of the company. So when you're going about choosing your mentor, think about, do you trust that person? And does that person trust you, right? Is it
Sure.
a very mutual relationship there? So I would say that's the first question to ask. The other parts I would say is maybe just their knowledge and experience. So what can they bring to the table that you don't have?
Sure.
I always say try to find somebody that's not like you.
Interesting.
Because, almost like a team member, because they're going to bring you something that you weren't thinking of, or that allows you to grow, right? And
Sure.
and if you find somebody very similar to you, they'll be able to maybe console you really well. So again, you don't have to just have one mentor; you can have two or three.
Sure.
But find the uses of each of one of them and how they help improve what you're looking to get improved upon, right? Whether that's, is it knowledge in the industry? Like right now, I'm looking to bring on an advisor who's focused on the healthcare space.
Sure.
Right? And that's because I need to know that somebody is a trustworthy person who can help mentor me, advise me, help the company grow in that specific industry. But then you have other mentors who are there for more consoling, helping you stay motivated, keeping you engaged, feeling you like giving you that excitement and motivation that helped you build the company at first. Letting you know the company is not going to go down and the world's not going to come to an end, and you don't need to quit. You need to have all of those things because that is the day-to-day life of any entrepreneur.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. It's a roller coaster ride, right?
Absolutely.
No, I think that's really good advice for people out there, and it's interesting just to hear people kind of talk about the different things that they find useful in a mentor. And I think the more and more I ask the question to people, it seems the answers are very similar, which is kind of fascinating to me, right? No, I think it's good, right? Like it seems everybody's on kind of the same track of like why it's important. And I think, there's a lot of people out there that I think could really benefit from having them and are kind of maybe scared to ask for one.
Yeah, I would say you're absolutely right. There's obviously this hesitancy or they feel a little anxious in asking someone for help or
Sure.
mentorship. I'm also a big believer that if you don't ask, you'll never receive.
Totally.
You'll just always
agree.
be thinking about it. So if you put yourself out there and feel confident, and believe in yourself, and say it genuinely. Ask somebody genuinely. I mean, humans are humans. At the end of the day, they truly want, goodness to come from these things. And obviously, the people you're most likely asking, you've seen something in them that's attracted you for you to even ask them for that help. Now, have there people that have told me that maybe mentorship isn't there for them? Well, I would say more advisory. Mentorship is actually fairly more flexible.
Okay.
But if you're looking for somebody to be your advisor, I would just say, like, hey, all I'm looking for is 15 minutes. 10 to 15 minutes of your time, because people are very busy, especially the people you're most likely asking.
Sure, yeah, fair.
They're most likely busy people, and, they have to obviously juggle a lot of things that go on in their lives.
Yeah.
So just ask for something that's reasonable, and they will, if anything, they'll like that you approached it in that way.
Yeah.
And they're going to give you most likely more time.
Sure.
Right? Because they see that you understand their lifestyle, and they understand that you respect their time.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So every time I call a mentor, I mention to him or her, I say, listen, all I need is 10 to 15 minutes. If right now doesn't work, just let me know. If it's tomorrow, a week from now, and then they're like, you know what, actually I have 10 minutes right now.
Okay.
Right? And they'll give you that 10 minutes for the things you need immediately, which is why I say have many mentors, not many, but have enough mentors that you feel that like fulfill your needs. And then you probably won't need more than 15 minutes if you think about it.
Sure. And if it's 15 minutes between two or three of them, that's some significant amount of time, right?
That is a significant amount of time.
Interesting.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, Navid, sorry to cut this short, but this has been awesome, and we're out of time.
No, not at all.
But like, how about we close the show with kind of promoting where people can find FitBliss online? Any other social media links you want to promote for the company or yourself?
Yeah, I would say 2 areas to find us. If you are looking to build a healthy, happy, and productive workforce amongst your colleagues, I would definitely look us up on, obviously, FitBliss.com,
okay,
as well as the App Exchange. So if you are looking at, obviously, apps that are integrate with Salesforce's CRM, you can go to Salesforce's App Exchange and search FitBliss, and you can actually see a demo of our solution there.
Okay, awesome.
And obviously, follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook.
Perfect. Well, Navid, thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate you taking the time into your day to be on the show, and I'm excited to follow, FitBliss through 2016 and kind of beyond.
It was a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on, Kevin.
All right. Thanks, man. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks for listening to the show. I'm also going to be at the Startup Expo in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, February 16th and 17th, recording shows. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check them out at electricmantra.com. Until next time, keep building the future.